Alright, as always, before we begin, let's start at the beginning of this crime.
Based off the murder file we were provided, we know that Evanjiho was killed at exactly 11:50 a.m.
Following that, Kiro and Sora found her in the dormitory hallway at 12:30 p.m.
And we all split up from the center intersection at 11 a.m. As for testimonies, me and Sora were together from the time we split up all the way through when the crime was in place.
I can abide to that. We were discussing the motive situation before we headed back to our dorms for the time being. However, that is when we discovered Evanjiho.
Me, Akio, and Toshi were all on our own after we separated from the center intersection, though around 12:15 p.m., me and Toshi met up and thought it was a good idea to stick together. From that time up until the body discovery announcement at 12:30 p.m., me and Toshi have an alibi.
As I told Kiro some time before we got to the trial, I had stayed in one of the empty classrooms to recover from my motive recording. I stayed there until around 11:40 a.m., which is when I headed to the Infirmary in search for any possible anxiety relievers. Heyoka even helped. You just to be safe.
Sure did. I can most definitely support that claim.
That's up, Takoya! Nobody's in the mood to hear your voice right now. I'll put this bluntly. I was alone basically the entire time, though I stumbled across Akira and Tochi when
the body discovery announcement played at 12:30 p.m. exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well then, despite any alibis, other than me and Kiro's, does not have any long-term accompany. That being said, Kiro and I have been fully accountable testimonies. Akira and Toshi have a valid alibi for a certain time span, and Akio has nothing really to back up his own account.
So, until further conclusion, everyone other than me and Sora are suspects in this case.
That's fair enough. Now that that's out of the way, where should we focus first?
Maybe we should start a murder file and go forward from that.
As long as it gets the job done, then anything works for me.
Alright, we'll take up your suggestion, Tochi. Let's retrace our steps during the investigation. For one, me and Sora found her body propped up against the wall in the dormitory hallway at 12:30 p.m. As we know, that is when the body discovery announcement played. Next, we were given the exact time that Evanjiho was killed, 11:50 a.m. So, the whereabouts from before that time frame are definitely vital. As you told me earlier, Tochi, you went to the infirmary at 11:40 a.m. in search of medication. I assume that you stayed there until 12:15 p.m., which is when you and Akira met up, correct?
That's right! When I left the infirmary, Akira noticed me and followed me out. She was the one suggesting that we stick together for the time being.
I can stand by that information. I was the one who advised us to stay together for the remaining time.
Keeping that in mind, if Tochi stayed in the infirmary from 11:40 a.m. up until 12:15 p.m., then there couldn't have been a chance for him to kill Evanjiho. Because, as we know, she was killed during the time span of 11:40 to 12:15.
That's definitely a valid point. This clears off Toshi's name until further notice. For Akira, the reason you aren't taken off is because we don't know where you were during that time frame. So unless you have something you'd like to say regarding that, you remain a suspect.
I think it's better if I stay a suspect. I don't have much to give for you to put together, though I will say I was on my own during that time span.
It's alright. Thank you for your cooperation either way, Akira.
Well, I'd say that information puts the majority of this at an impasse. Now, we should move on with the actual evidence we found regarding the murder itself.
I suppose you have a point. Let's put this topic to the side for the time being. Though, if we need to mention it again, we will do so.
Fine by me. If we're discussing Tochi's previous idea, let's discuss what we found at the crime scene first.
I think that works best anyways. Since we're all together while we investigate her body.
Agreed. It's better to start at the beginning before getting into what we found separately.
You're right. Then let's backtrack to what we found in the dormitory hallway. First off, we were told that the weapon used was unable to be determined. However, we know that whatever it was sharp enough to pierce through Evanjiho's torso.
Following that, I laid out a probable speculation of what the weapon could be: a wooden spear. It's a rather crafty weapon, but knowing the clown face over there, he probably left some wood for us to make of use.
Besides, surely someone here knows how to carve out a spear from wood. Someone other than me.
It is presumably the best source of crafted weaponry we've got here, compared to your everyday sharp blades and utensils.
Though there were external wounds on Evanjiho's body that we found, and were mentioned in the murder file, connecting that with her badminton racket we found. We assumed that they played a part in the cause for those wounds.
Which we then concluded that the victim had brought a weapon to the scene as well. Since Evanjiho is the only one who had a proper experience with handling the racket, it could only have been her who brought it.
Putting it in the perspective of Evanjiho, she probably brought it with her as a self-defense weapon. When the culprit tried to attack, she fired back.
And we know that turned out to be the case simply because of the blood spatter that was left on it.
Additionally, there was a wound in her torso that was caused by our mystery weapon. Obviously, that impact was the fatal damage that killed Evanjiho.
Lastly, Evanjiho had a relived-like smile on her face that she weakly wore. We didn't know why in the moment, but actually, we'll get more into that part later on.
Well, that concludes our summary of the crime scene. Now what do we do?
Hold on, Akio. There's still one part of the story that needs to be elaborated. The fight between Evanjiho and the culprit we disclosed. We should discuss any potential leads that could add onto that claim, just to be safe.
I guess it would be a good idea to run through that one more time. Well then, let's see what everyone thinks about this plausible calamity.
Well, to start this off, does anyone have anything they'd like to put out there regarding the fight?
If anything, it's the most likely conclusion. Hell, probably our only one considering the evidence we found altogether.
Though how can we be so sure? I mean, knowing Evanjiho, I highly doubt that she would be able to attack anyone nonetheless.
I agree with Akio. Besides, the wounds on her body could easily have been caused by a simple attack rather than a fight.
No, that's incorrect. Yes, it very well could have been caused from a straightforward attack, though the struggle between Evanjiho and the culprit is the best logical answer.
How so?
When we all split up from the center intersection, me and Akira partnered up and decided to investigate the infirmary. Originally, it was all tidy and organized when I last checked it out. However, when we arrived, the entire infirmary was trashed.
What do you mean by trashed?
When we got inside, prescription bottles that were previously placed inside the cabinets had been tossed all around the room, as well as some specific books from the bookshelf were thrown onto the floor.
Though, these weren't exactly out of the ordinary. Both of these things connect to the mystery at hand. For one, the prescription bottles differed in usage. However, they were all a type of pain reducer. As for the books, they were all specifically guides for treating injuries and wounds. One book in particular that was left wide open on the floor was a guide for treating bone fractures.
Bone fractures? That feels more relevant compared to the rest.
Exactly. Now think about it. Why would anyone need to be looking through stuff like this unless they were injured themselves?
So, what you're saying is that someone was suffering from some kind of wound or something, and tore up the infirmary looking for a way to relieve the pain.
Something like that. But why would they need to find these things in specific if the pain they were enduring wasn't excruciating? Or if the injury wasn't noticeable?
Does that mean that the inflicted wound we have gotten was noticeable? And if that's the case, is that why they were so desperate to fix it?
And what reason would they have to be so desperate? Unless the person who havocked the infirmary was...
The culprit.
If the culprit was the one who destroyed the infirmary, that means that the culprit was suffering from an injury themselves.
Based off of our evidence, where would they have gotten said injury? Considering the fact that we found Evanjiho's badminton racket stained with blood, we can assume that that blood belonged to the culprit and not Evanjiho.
Which basically eliminates any other options of what caused it.
That also covers how Evanjiho was given inflicted external damage as well.
Precisely. That being said, the only logical answer is the fight between our culprit and victim.
I see. I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of that part.
It's not your fault, Tochi. If anything, it was better to make that clear to keep everyone on the same page.
Though, despite this new information, we still don't exactly have anything to 100% confirm what our undetermined weapon may be.
I have a contradiction to that. Before I make it clear what I have to say regarding that, Sora, how about we discuss the possibilities of the weapon one more time? I'm simply asking this in order to clear something up for everyone.
I guess you've got a point.
Well then, let's see what everyone thinks about our mystery weapon.
Laying down the first mark, we may have validated pieces of evidence that points to what our weapon could or could have been.
However, we need to be entirely sure on what we claim is the truth. Despite its shape, it could be a wooden blade. If carved to the touch, it would be a perfect fit.
As someone who is quite experienced with weaponry, I suggest that a barking could inflict this degree of damage if handled properly.
If used in a threatening way, a training sword could severely injure someone who isn't careful.
Naturally, I'd stick to the simplest option. It's not only the easiest crafted weapon out of all of these, but one that is able to cause heavy amounts of damage to the body. I mean, if Heyoka were to leave unhindered wood around here, a wooden spear would definitely be my first choice.
That's correct. Out of all the suggestions, me and Akira actually found something connected to the weapon.
Is that so?
That's right. While we were investigating, Kiro found a chipped piece of wood under the counter. In fact, it was shaped like a head of a spear.
And at the end of it, the tip was stained with what appeared to be freshly drawn blood.
I think that makes the most sense, honestly. Akio has a point as well. Out of all of her suggestions, a spear would be the easiest thing to carve.
Exactly my point. I mean, I don't understand why you'd put so much effort into making a specific weapon. Nobody who was brought here at the start had to make their murder as specific as they did either. If nobody really had the intention to kill, then why have all the cases thus far been as brutal and excessive as they were? If you're planning on killing somebody, just do it instead of making it such an excruciating experience for everybody. There was no need for these murders to be as thought out as they were. It was unnecessary for the victim and the killer themselves.
I suppose you have a point. Besides, we all know that Evanjiho was killed shortly after the motive announcement. That being said, she was officially murdered in under an hour. Not a lot of time to use on making a weapon.
Fair enough. Within a shortened time span, unlike the other crimes we've solved, the culprit certainly had limited time to waste.
That's what I'm saying! How would anyone be able to craft anything other than that in less than an hour? Doesn't seem to make sense in this case.
While that is a legitimate point, you did state the suggestion earlier. Regardless, how come you waited until now to explain your reasoning as to why you thought of this possibility? This would have been more useful information to know beforehand.
We were in the middle of an investigation, Sora. What point would have it made for me to make my thoughts known before the trial that was made for discussion?
I'm not saying it was a bad thing. To me, something about your intentions feel suspicious.
Oh, really? Now, what if my opinion would be considered suspicious, Sir Smart Alec?
Can we please not fight right now?
This isn't fighting, it's simply speculating the assertiveness of a certain someone.
You cannot be doing this right now.
Unfortunately, in the world we live in right now, it's necessary. That being said, I am doing this. I'm doing exactly what we are supposed to do.
If you know your place so well, then why haven't you answered my previous question? Just what of me is suspicious for you? Enlighten me. This goes for all of you.
I wouldn't necessarily say that the weapon suggestion was the suspicious part of it.
Then what is, Kiro?
Well, for one, you were alone the entire time as I was told, correct? You also mentioned that you met up with Akira and Tochi later on.
That's right. Your point?
In addition to your testimony, Akira told me that you found her and Tochi as soon as the body discovery announcement played.
In which you did, so of course we think you're suspicious. I mean, you literally dispersed on your own just to show up almost immediately as the announcement went through. Thinking of it that way, why don't we have to say to believe you're suspicious?
Okay, I get why that seems oddly coincidental, but that was entirely up to convenience. It seems off-put on timing, yes, but I assure you that I have no knowledge on that occurrence.
Then, how about this? Explain how you already knew about what was inside the infirmary when we investigated it together.
Wait, you two already looked around in there? Is that why you wanted to show me what was inside?
That's right, last night I ran into Akio in the hallway. He then wanted me to follow him, and we went to the infirmary. There, he showed me the prescription bottles and the self-treatment books.
But how did he know anything about that unless he investigated it himself before?
That's exactly my point. So, if anything, that's where everyone's complexity lies.
Well then, what do you have to say about that one, Akio?
Look, I was just putting that out there in the wind.
So, Akio, since you apparently knew all about the infirmary and everything that was inside of it, care to explain the mess that was left behind there? Clearly you know more than any of us.
Okay, so how about we just cross back to his account instead? If we can overlook any minute details that we may have missed, maybe we can come up with a better conclusion to this confrontation?
Your conclusion has open holes. So you really think that my knowingness of the infirmary makes me stand out?
Akio, look, I know I screwed up.
This isn't about that, this is about proving my innocence. Since apparently the person I told everything to fed it to the suspicion against me.
I know I can't take it back, but I'll listen to your argument and try to back you up from there.
Fine. See if you know how to keep up your word. Regarding your previous statement, yes, I did know about the previous indications beforehand. However, I decided to let you in on them because I thought it would be beneficial for at least someone other than me to know about. While it does point me out as this prime suspect for suspicion, there's one thing that doesn't fit into the puzzle. Think about it for a moment. What part of the scenario couldn't have been possible?
Wait, I think I know what you're talking about. Keep going, I'll do my best to put it into words.
Before the start of the substantiation, we previously said that the culprit caused a wreckage inside of the infirmary. But why would the supposed culprit, leave such a mess behind if I knew where everything was at originally? If I knew about the medications and the self-treatment guides from the beginning, Why would the infirmary be in the state that it's in? There wouldn't be no reason to leave a mess behind if I already knew where everything was.
I agree with your argument. Akio's right. If he was the culprit, it would be aimless to trash the infirmary, especially so recklessly.
Care to explain how?
Well, we found the infirmary in complete disarray, didn't we? If Akio were the Blackens, doesn't it seem pretty useless to leave it that way? Including the specific time crunch that the culprit was on, it would be a waste of time to cause havoc so purposelessly.
Exactly! If the culprit was the one to tear up the infirmary, they most likely would have done it without any previous knowledge on what was inside. So, in short, they unintentionally destroyed it.
Honestly, that makes sense. The culprit must have been in a panic if they had such a limited time to do what they needed to do without being caught.
I suppose it would be quite a waste of time to trust the infirmary in that case. With such a short time, being injured in a panic, I don't think there would be any reason to spend time in there any more than the necessary amount in their case.
Thank you. This is why we need to logically speak rather than impulsively on any one thing that stands out.
Personally, I believe both ways can be quite beneficial.
We may have made some pretty good connections based off our impulses. Think of it like magnets being put together. Our impulsive statements lead us to make logical conclusions to those claims in outbursts. They work equally in this situation.
In fact, I'd like to speak impetuously about something regarding this conclusion, to the suspicions against you, Akio.
You can't be serious.
Well, even though you knew where everything was, that doesn't solidify your innocence. Actually speaking, despite the time limitations, there could have been other reasons behind the wreckage. Sure, it does make sense for the culprit to have done it due to panic and a lack of awareness. However, this still could have been done with awareness.
Are you saying Akio could have still done this even with his knowledge?
I mean, it's certainly not impossible. Akio, you may just be trying to lead everyone the opposite direction. Though, you're not fooling me.
I'm not even trying to make a fool out of you. You're making yourself look like a damn fool right now. Since you're so smart, Sora, how can we be so sure that you didn't do it? For all we know, you could just be trying to pinpoint me as the culprit so you can get away with it.
There's no need for me to frame anyone. I know what the risks are. Everyone here should just know as much. Lying for personal gain is useless in our situation right now.
You act like you're so entitled to all the answers. Regardless, all you're doing is putting everyone else on the chopping block.
Be that way, Akio. I'm going to get the answers I'm looking for, and I'm going to make sure we make it out of this alive.
Well, you're doing a terrible job right now. If that's the case, if a fight's what you're looking for, it's a fight you're going to get.
I'm going to prove my judgment.
First of all, you were the one to take action and excuse yourself after the motive.
Because I wasn't going to risk my life going with any of you after a direct motive. Everyone thus far has killed for or because of a motivation. It's not the same instance for this crime. If you knew so much, Sora, you'd know how dangerous it is to be with someone after one.
While that is true, it could also be the beneficial in giving you an insured alibi. If you were to have one right now, you want to be in this situation.
I would be in the situation regardless. In fact, I already am.
Alright then, how about the fact that you purposely kept information of what was inside the infirmary away from everyone else other than Kiro? You should have expected that valuable evidence you had to backfire after you told her about it.
Well, surprisingly, I didn't. Because I'm not a stuck-up know-it-all who can't put a fiber of trust into anyone.
You're one to talk.
Look, as a whole, I'm just trying to do what you've been trying to do. Keep us all out of trouble. While I've been secretive and untrustworthy up until this point, I actually have an alibi that has been mentioned to Kiro and has been backed up.
I reject your statement. While you do have an alibi, it is not a proven one. You told me yourself you were alone throughout the entire time span that the crime occurred. You only have an alibi for after the body discovery announcement went off. That being said, your excuse is not accountable.
Nothing left to go off now, as it seems.
How about we just move on to something else? Once we have more evidence, we can come back to this.
I agree. We still have multiple aspects of this crime to go over, not just blatantly accusing the culprit.
Alright. Then, how about we discuss another unsolved mystery? We still need to come to the conclusion of why she was smiling.
Or rather, we should enlighten those two on the conclusion ourselves.
What's that supposed to mean?
Supposedly, the three of them know some kind of essential knowledge that we don't.
Well, I guess this is where we discuss the room.
Seems so.
Let us guide you on what the reasoning behind this mystery is. So, listen well. This is going to be complicated to explain.
There are multiple different explanations as to why she was smiling after her own death.
For example, after a death occurs, the victim's body will stop functioning entirely, causing the muscles to ease. That being said, the whole discussion is mostly pointless if it was caused simply by muscle relaxant.
I disagree. This is actually way more important than you make it out to be.
While it is important, me and Akio are seemingly the only two who don't know the answer. If you want to claim this as important, enlighten us on the importance of it.
While the muscles may lessen after a period of time has passed, has anybody come to think that Evanjiho herself had perpetrated awareness regarding her own death?
That's correct.
A purported awareness? How is that even possible?
For once, I stand with Akira on this one. Where would she have gotten the alleged knowledge from this to begin with? Especially if it wasn't anything we were aware of.
Well, to be frank, it wasn't anything that we were supposed to be aware of. After I parted ways with you, Akira, I tagged along with Sora and Tochi to investigate Evanjiho's room.
Once we got there, we got Heyoka to unlock the door for us, though he gave us a warning about what was on the other side.
We didn't understand what he meant until we saw for ourselves.
What does this have to do with her ad-living smile exactly?
There was an empty prescription bottle on Evanjiho's desk.
And that prescription was one she told me about a few days ago. It was her prescribed sleeping medication.
Following that, Toshi claimed that she had more than half of it left before the incident that took place today. That being said, she had probably taken the remainder of her pills sometime this morning.
How does this tie into with her self-awareness?
Let's just say the prescription wasn't the only thing that was off-putting. There was a piece of paper that Evanjiho had left under the bottle. Presumably, she left it for us to find on our own.
And this was no stereotypical letter. In fact, it was a personally written and constructed cipher.
After Sora decoded the message.
We found that this was an attempted sacrifice. Somehow, some way, Evanjiho knew she was going to die. Or maybe she knew that someone was going to die. Regardless of the reasoning, she gave up her life in order to save someone else's.
Even if she wasn't killed, she most likely would have died from overdose.
In the end, there was a reason behind everything. She was smiling because her plan was successful. She got what she wanted.
I refuse to believe that outcome.
How can you be so sure that this was all orchestrated by her hand? This could easily have been done by the culprit to make us all look foolish! That sounds like something a heartless killer would do, doesn't it?
There is a lot of evidence that ties in with this result, Akira. I understand that it's a terrible, terrible truth to take in, but
nothing! It's completely unrealistic for her to even know when fate comes! This conclusion is utter bullshit! This has to be some kind of setup!
That's practically impossible considering all we've put up together up until now.
based off of what we know from the infirmary, the culprit was in a rush, hence why everything was left in wreckage. They would have had no chance to put something like that together with how limited on time they were.
Yeah, you're right. I apologize for my sudden outburst.
It's okay, Akira. Nobody wanted to accept something as heartbreaking as this.
Getting back on track. Now what? Sure, we come to a semi-collective conclusion, but we haven't gotten a smidge closer to who the culprit really is.
You're right. Unfortunately, despite how much time we spent on the crime itself, we've gotten little to no leads on the identity of the Black End.
Hold on a second. It seems as if you're overlooking a few aspects here, Kiro.
Uh-huh? What are you talking about?
While there may be nothing obvious to directly point out any suspects, there is something about someone's testimony that was particularly sketchy.
Sketchy. I think I'm going to need a bit more of a nudge in the right direction to understand your point, Sora.
Then I'll talk you into the right direction. To start, as they have mentioned before, they were admittedly alone throughout the time period of this crime. Secondly, they were the only other person to have previous knowledge on what was inside the infirmary. Presumably, in hopes to set aside that individuality, they let you in on that information, unaware that you would share that with everyone else.
Wait, I didn't intentionally try to use it against him at all.
I'm not saying you did, however, regardless of your intentions, it did lead a heavier suspicion against them. Reasonably. Sure, maybe we found several loopholes around their testimony nonetheless. But if you recall, you and I found Evanjiho in the dormitory hallway. And if they previously claimed to have been in their dorm during the ongoing murder in their testimony, wouldn't that mean that they were the closest person to her whereabouts and the crime scene?
That's correct. Sora's right. They were the only one closest to the dormitory hallway compared to anyone else. Not to mention the fact that they were also alone up until the body discovery announcement.
Going over each of our substantiations and where they took place again, me and Kiro were together the entire time. Moving from the dining hall to the dormitory hallway, you were the first to find Evanjiho's body.
While me and Toshi were only together for a certain amount of time after the murder happened, we were nowhere near the dormitory hallway before we met up.
As I mentioned to you, Kiro, I had been inside one of the empty classrooms after I ran away from the group.
Though I didn't confirm exactly where I was previously, Toshi and I met up at the gymnasium before heading for the center intersection where we found Akio.
I can solidify the claim too.
Which means that there was only one person who was by the dormitories around the time span that we agreed on.
While that does make sense, just one more question. If Akio already knew about where everything was inside of the infirmary, what would be the point of destroying it in such limited time?
There is actually a pretty justifiable reason as to why that was done. Right, Kiro?
I think I know what you mean.
Think about it this way. If the culprit had no reason to mess up the infirmary, but opted to do it anyway, what would you say their purpose was?
Their intended plan was to make us believe that they were clueless on where everything was. In short, the wreckage left behind was actually on purpose. A premeditated setup.
So, despite the injury they faced, they decided to waste more time than they needed to just for the sake of another mystery.
Precisely, and as they admitted to before, they had also gone to the infirmary themselves whilst on their own.
It appears he has nothing more on his side. I suppose that concludes this case.
It seems so. If that's the case, it would mean that we finally reached the end. There's only one more left for us to do.
Yeah, you're right. With everything we've been through, with everything we've discovered and discussed, we now have to put it all together. We have to conclude how this crime really went down, how it really happened. So, it's time to draw the line. We're going to unmask the perpetrator of this crime once and for all.
Wait! It isn't him! He isn't the culprit. Ooh, we're making the wrong call.
What are you talking about? We've discussed just about everything we needed to. There's nothing else left to defend him with.
Listen, Tochi, I appreciate that you're trying to defend him, but there's no other possible explanation we have that proves his innocence.
Just listen to me! You don't understand. If we convict him, we'll all die!
I don't understand. You were on our side up until this point. What changed?
I know it was unexpected, but something just doesn't sit right with me. Please, just let me explain! Well, Akio did mention going a variety of places when he was alone. He didn't exactly specify where he went. At which times? Did he? We can't just automatically assume that he was in his dorm room at the same time as Evanjiho's murder. If he didn't say what time he was there. If we immediately assume such without proper evidence of that, doesn't that just make this invalid?
I suppose you do have a point there. But what about all the stuff that happened with the infirmary? It is odd that he went there during the time span of this whole thing.
Yes, but you said that the culprit jeopardized the infirmary after Evanjiho was killed. As I mentioned earlier, I had gone to the infirmary to search for any anxiety medication with Heyoka's help. At that point, I didn't see Akio anywhere around the infirmary when I went there at 12 p.m.
I reject your statement. Did you just say you went there at 12?
Huh? Yeah, I did. Why do you ask?
When I asked you about your whereabouts before you met up with Akira, you specifically told me that you went to the infirmary at 11:40 a.m., which was before Evanjiho died. So, why did you say you went after?
Wait, does that mean you lied about your testimony?
Then the culprit really wasn't Akio?
It was you.
If Toshi was the actual culprit, then we misinterpreted several pieces of evidence we had.
Like the underdetermined weapon. It makes so much sense now. How quick she died, how far it went through her torso. The weapon wasn't a wooden spear, it was an arrow all along. And, of course, the only one who'd know how to use one would be the archer himself.
When you, me, and Kiro found out what Evanjiho's plan was, you were just as horrified as the rest of us because you didn't know either. Rather, you were more horrified than any one of us were in that moment.
And you hadn't been to the infirmary before. You had no idea what anything was. You panicked, fleeing the scene after finding whatever you could. Because of whatever medication you found, it helped hide the swelling wherever the fracture was.
I didn't mean it! 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 I didn't mean to! I really didn't! I never wanted to do this! I never wanted to hurt her!
What are you talking about?
Wait, no. This wasn't an...
It was an accident! I was just so over in my head that I thought she was going to kill me.
Oh my god.
You felt threatened, which led you to act impulsively without even realizing what was actually happening.
I didn't want to lie. I didn't want anybody to get hurt because of me. But I didn't want to die.
Okay. Tochi, listen to me. Take a deep breath. I'm going to reenact how this crime went out. You just follow along. Try not to think about it.
Oh, okay.
This morning, way before the motive was announced, Evanjiho had a plan to commit to after becoming self-aware of what was soon to come. To prevent anyone else from dying, she decided on her own accord that she would take the place as the victim, whether it be by someone else or by her own hand. In order to sabotage any possibility of someone else being the victim, she made sure that she would die regardless of whom would kill. Limiting down her time, she swallowed the remainder of her sleeping medication as an act of overdose. That way, if nobody killed, she would die from suicide. Now, all that was left for her to do was to wait for the next motive to be instructed. Heyoka had handed each of us our own sets of tablets and headphones, which would allow us to view who each of our personalized loved ones were. After we had seen the horrors of what Heyoka had planned for us, everyone was left on edge. Nobody could stand the thought of their friends and family being murdered over something like this. Especially not the culprits. Being placed under sudden pressure, they became paranoid of everyone around them, choosing to run away from the center intersection out of fear. However, Evanjiho realized right then and there who her culprit would be, attempting to follow them. Though, after being put to a halt by Akira, she decided to wait for the right opportunity to follow them. That opportunity finally opened when we all decided to go our separate ways, leaving her behind on her own. That was our mistake. Once Evanjiho was sure she was in the clear, she ran down the same path as the culprit had towards the dormitory hallway. Supposedly, she had taken her badminton racket from her bedroom on her way before approaching them. This was most likely just an excuse to hide what her true intentions were, covering it up as a self-defense weapon. When Evanjiho found them, they were in a state of panic and vulnerability. Hence, when they saw Evanjiho up close, they immediately saw the racket she had brought with her, striking them with trepidation. Because of that approach, the culprit grabbed the closest thing they had with them, their bow and arrow. This marked the point where Evanjiho and the corporate got into their confrontation. The two fought with one another for a while. That was until Evanjiho swung her badminton racket at them harshly, causing a fracture somewhere on their body. Somehow, withstanding the pain, they swung back with an impact that caused Evanjiho's wrist to snap. Evanjiho, being off her guard, the culprit instinctively fired the fatal shot, their arrow going straight through her torso. However, the force of the arrow going through her body caused the arrowhead to break off of it. This is why the weapon was left as undetermined by Heyoka. It was at this moment that the culprit had finally realized what they had done, making a quick escape from the crime scene. In a panic, they headed for the infirmary in search of anything that could help hide the injury. Though, unfortunately for them, they hadn't been to the infirmary before, and that meant they had no idea where anything was. Desperately, they searched through everything they could with limited time they had, unintentionally trashing the room. Once the fracture wasn't noticeably swelling anymore, they hurried out of the infirmary, leaving the mess they made behind. After this incident, they stayed around the infirmary with Weary. Although they met up with Akira after she had seen them awkwardly standing around in the middle of the hall. Akira had suggested that the two stick together for the time being, to which they agreed and stuck beside her up until Evanjiho was officially found. Upon the two sticking together, Akira thought nothing of it. Nobody did. And that brings the case of Evanjiho Vermicelli to an end. I can't believe it. It broke me to find out this way. I can't imagine how broken they must have felt. I can't believe we still have to count this as a murder. But I guess we have no other option. The story is all put together, and that's exactly how it played out. Isn't that right? Tochi Himagavi, you are the culprit.
The hardest part to believe about this is just everything.
I will admit, this is definitely not how I thought things would go.
Nobody thought things would go this way, Sora. Something like this would never fail anyone's expectations.
Regardless, that doesn't mean we can't wish it didn't end up like this.
Phew! Thank goodness that's finally over with. Y'all really know how to make this feel like a melodramatic news channel. Besides, the kiddo's got nothing to worry about since a murder's been committed.
So don't you worry none. Your teammates are safe and sound thanks to you, Toshi.
Teammates?
Oh, that's right. You don't know who his motive was directed towards. How about we change that? Eyes up to the screen, everyone. This should hopefully bring you to a civil consolidation.
The infamous Archery Academy. This whole thing has been around for over 3 whole decades. This inspirational educational center is known for training children of any age to subject of archery. Their current team has been said to be the best one out there so far. Matter of fact, one of these talented archers got accepted in the program to attend Hope's Peak University. Their beloved teammates were oh so supportive of this individual, especially their coach. Mr. Kocho has always wanted the best for his trainees. I'm sure he was more than pleased to hear the news. Unfortunately, beyond the comprehension of this class student, their teammates have been in more complex situations. But I assure you, there's nothing to be worried about. Thankfully, Hope's Peak University has come up with a solution to these overwhelming issues. Individually, we have spoken on even terms with each of the team members in order to ensure absolute participation and agreement on all ends. Though, in compromise for our contribution, Hope's Peak University has settled a deal on how this academy can return the favor. In order to officially come to a resolution for our patronage, it is an absolute requirement to take care of these problems firsthand. In simple terms, we are asking for a life-for-a-life condition. Kill one of your fellow colleagues, or each of these archers will be menacingly killed by our own cause. It's entirely dependent on you, Tochi. Being a pacifist won't get you out of this one.
Oh boy, that one was sure a doozy, wasn't it? Pretty convincing if I do say so myself. Oh, come on, don't look so terrified. Besides, they're completely fine now thanks to—
No! No! Like, I don't want this! I don't want it to end this way! I didn't mean to! I didn't mean it or anyone!
Gee, Heyoka, can't you see what you're doing to us? You forced us to play in this stupid game of yours, taking actual lives away, and you continue to show no sympathy! For once, have a heart.
Akiro's right. It was never fair to do what you've already done to everyone else. But this time, it's unmeasurably unfair. He didn't even do this with intention, unlike Hakiree and Reito.
Please, Heyoka. Deep down, I know you know that this isn't right. You don't have to do this. You don't have to commit to the rules. You know how unfair this is. I know you do.
You know, I wish you could change the rules of the game to fit your preferability. To make it fair. Sorry, kiddos. Games weren't meant to be fair. I've prepared a special punishment for the ultimate archer.
No, I don't want to die!
Get ready, everyone, because it's punishment time!